Hello and welcome. You're watching Reality Check. The Indian Express this morning published on its front page what appeared to be the latest attempt by the RSS to censor what Indian school children study. An organization headed by Dinanath Batra, a RSS ideologue, has recommended a number of cuts in the NCERT textbooks, some of which border on the bizarre. For instance, it says that Manmohan Singh's apology for the 1984 riots should be removed. The Ram Temple movement linked to the BJP growth should be removed. M.F. Hussein's autobiography again stamped out. The sentence that the BJP is a Hinduvadi party should be removed. Ghalib's couplet, Tagore's thoughts, again on the ban list. There's much more. We'll come to that in a second. Now, these were submitted as part of feedback that the NCERT routinely seeks from the public as part of its review process for its curricula. But Mr. Batra and his organization are not ordinary public. Mr. Batra's textbooks are endorsed by state governments of at least two BJP-run states, Gujarat and Haryana. He's also masterminded the ban on the historian and scholar Wendy Doniger's book, The Hindus, in 2014. He was behind the move to remove Ramanujan's seminal essay on 300 Ramayanas by Delhi University in 2009, and much more. So we will debate this. We are getting up our links with a number of our panelists. At the moment, we have with us Professor Rakesh Sinha, the RSS ideologue. He joins us from Patna, and Professor Aditya Mukherjee, historian, joining us here in the Delhi studios. Now, Rakeshji, just to run you through both some of the cuts recommended by Mr. Batra's organization, in addition to the ones I read out. So just to run through the whole list again, the highlights, like I mentioned, Manmohan Singh's apology for the 1984 riots, Ram Temple movement linked to BJP growth, M.F. Hussein's autobiography, BJP is a Hinduvadi party, Ghalib's couplet, Tagore's thoughts. In the post-Vedic era, women were considered equivalent to Shudras. Mughal rulers were liberal towards people. The National Conference of Jammu and Kashmir is a secular organization. These are just among some of the cuts that Mr. Batra and the Shiksha Sanskriti Uthan Nyas have recommended. What's the logic behind this, Rakeshji?
I know that many people would have reservation on such recommendations.
Right.
This is not unnatural in democracy. But you have to understand that one-liner is good for breaking news in television. But one-liner is not good for democratic discussion on a subject which impacts the society, culture, politics.
So what
I'm
is
giving
it
one
then?
example.
What is the context
you have
we're
selected
missing?
certain things which may be disputed. Many people, I'm giving one example. You know, in India, in post-independent India, one of the most important thing is the imposition of emergency in the country.
Right.
And other important thing is, in 1977, which has been called the second political independence after 1947.
Yes.
This is an incident which is not related to a particular ideology, but a part of the India's democratic political process.
But Rakesh, you're deflecting.
Events, you go to any 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th students, nobody knows about the emergency, nobody knows about the 1977
But you're not answering my question.
verdict.
Okay, no, but Rakesh, with all respect, I don't want to cut you off, but you're deflecting from my question. If I can just ask you, for example, Manmohan Singh's apology for the 1984 riots, why should that sentence be deleted? What's the logic behind that?
No. Have you read the entire paper in which that recommendation has been done? The newspaper has highlighted only the one-liner recommendation without going the logic of that. It is not that that should be removed. It is that there are many important things which are missing from the textbook, which are many important things.
That's a different
by
point,
feeding negative things, you are not going to create the generation which can be more positive for the nation and society and culture.
Okay,
Everything should be taught. Nothing is out of context. But it's a question of pride. Let me come, Mr. Nivasan. Let me complete, because this is very important thing. I say that every organization has right to give some recommendation.
Right.
This is a beauty of democracy, that recommendation have been given.
No,
it
that's
is up
fine.
to
But
the NCERT
but there has to be
accept or reject.
Okay, but there has to be some.
Sahmat has given a lot of recommendations.
But there has to be
nobody has
some.
discussed that.
There has to be some justification also for it. I'm also joined by Atul Kothari, who's the National Secretary of the Shiksha Sanskriti Uthan Nyas. Also joining us is Apurvanand, professor at Delhi University, who's been part of the NCERT curriculum process. Also Akshay Mukul, author of the Gita Press. If I can just go to you, Kothari ji, just to understand from you that in addition to that list of sentences you want deleted, you also want to delete a number of English words like Vice Chancellor, worker, margin, business, backbone, stanza, Royal Academy, and you also want to remove a number of Urdu words, Betartib, Poshak, Taqat, Ilaka, Aksar, Iman. Again, same question to you, that while you may have a case, you may make a case that certain important aspects of historical learning, incidents as you perceive it, may not be part of these textbooks. What's the logic behind removing these words?
ऐसा है कि जो हिंदी भाषा सिखाने की ये पुस्तक है बच्चों को
जी,
आप सुन रहे हैं?
हाँ जी, सुन रहा हूँ.
हेलो,
हाँ, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
ये पुस्तक है एनसीईआरटी की. हाँ, मुझे आ रही है. ये एनसीईआरटी की जो पुस्तक है वो हिंदी भाषा की पुस्तक है.
अच्छा,
ठीक है
जी.
कोई इंग्लिश पुस्तक में हिंदी शब्द लिखे हुए आपने पढ़े क्या?
ठीक है.
कोई इंग्लिश पुस्तक में उर्दू, फारसी ये शब्द लिखे हुए पढ़े क्या आपने?
अच्छा, तो
भाषा का जो कानून है
जी,
मेरी बात सुन लीजिए कि भाषा का जो कानून है
जी,
कि जो भी भाषा हिंदी है तो हिंदी में वो पुस्तकें होनी चाहिए. जब कोई शब्द अपवाद के कोई ऐसा शब्द हो कि जो हिंदी में न हो,
हाँ,
तो उसको संस्कृत से शब्द लिया जाना चाहिए. ये भाषा का कानून है.
अच्छा,
तो और दूसरे ऐसे शब्दों का उपयोग किया है,
हाँ,
ऐसे शब्दों का उपयोग किया है कि जो शिक्षक भी समझ नहीं पाता है.
अच्छा, एक
तो वो
मुझे
कैसे
बताइए,
बच्चों को समझाएगा?
अच्छा, आपका लैंग्वेज का पॉइंट मैं समझ गया. दूसरा मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रहा था, जो मैं राकेश जी से पहले पूछा था, कि जैसे कुछ जो आपने सेंटेंसेस हटाने की बात की, जैसे मनमोहन सिंह अपॉलजी फॉर 1984 राइट्स, राम टेम्पल मूवमेंट लिंक टू बीजेपी ग्रोथ, इसकी क्या वजह है? ये क्या पॉलिटिक्स की वजह से आप
ऐसा है कि नहीं ऐसा है कि किसी एक आइडियोलॉजी, एक पार्टी को ही टारगेट बनाकर पुस्तक में जो लिखा जा रहा है वो बराबर नहीं है, हमारा कहना है. अगर राम मंदिर टेम्पल की मूवमेंट से बीजेपी को बढ़ोतरी हुई ऐसा आप बताना चाहते हैं पुस्तक में, वास्तव में ये हुआ कि राम मंदिर आंदोलन के बाद भाजपा की 3 राज्यों में सरकारें चली गई थी. ये फैक्ट है. तो जो फैक्ट है वो नहीं दिखा रहे. और दूसरी बात है आप कि बच्चों को ये सारी बातें गलत ढंग से पढ़ाने का क्या मतलब है?
अच्छा,
क्यों नहीं पढ़ाया गया है कि वीपी सिंह ने मंडल कमीशन का आंदोलन लेखाकर ये अपने वोट बैंक स्ट्रॉन्ग करने का प्रयास किया था. अनेक बार कांग्रेस ने ये सारे काम किए, वो क्यों नहीं लिखा गया इस पुस्तक में? तो किसी एक पार्टी को, एक आइडियोलॉजी को टारगेट करके बायस से ये सब लिखा जाए, ये और ये बच्चों को पढ़ाने का क्या तात्पर्य है?
अच्छा, ठीक है. अतुल जी, can I just bring in Apurvanand, Professor Apurvanand, would you like to respond to this, that these textbooks are promoting only one ideology and one party, which is the Congress, and targeting another ideology and another party, presumably referring to the BJP?
On the contrary, I think for the first time in the history of Indian textbook writing, we got textbooks in political science,
right,
which talked about the anti-Sikh violence of 1984, which talked about emergency, excesses of emergency,
right,
which talked about Manmohan Singh's apology, which was in fact against Congress, not in favor of, it was not favoring Congress.
right.
So these were the textbooks which were critiquing the government, which in fact sanctioned these textbooks.
Right.
And therefore, these were revolutionary in one sense of the term. and very unusual and unconventional.
So the emergencies mentioned in the books.
Yes, you have to go through the textbooks of political and social life of different classes.
Right.
And you have to see how these textbooks, I don't have those textbooks before me, but kindly I would advise Mr. Kothari not to practice half truth.
मैं जो बात कर रहा हूँ ना सारे प्रमाण के साथ बात कर रहा हूँ, मेरे पास टेक्स्ट बुक भी है, मेरे पास पेज नंबर है, सब है मेरे पास.
Just a second, I have been part of that curriculum process, and I say this with responsibility,
right,
that these were the first set of textbooks which
right,
in fact critiqued the government of the day, the party of the government.
So let me just get Atul Kothari.
And the very fact, Srinivas, the very fact that these textbooks talk about Manmohan Singh's apology.
Yes.
What does it say? What does it say?
So let me get Atul Kothari to respond to that.
It proves that Congress was responsible.
ठीक है, तो कोठारी जी
Congress was responsible
84 riots का जिक्र हो रहा है, मनमोहन सिंह उसके लिए apologize कर रहे हैं, तो आप ऐसा क्यों कह रहे हैं कि ये एंटी प्रो कांग्रेस है ये बुक्स? हाउ इज दैट प्रो कांग्रेस?
84 के जो राइट्स हुए उसमें मनमोहन सिंह ने एपोलॉजी की थी, माफी मांग ली थी.
हाँ.
ये वो पॉजिटिवली बताना चाहते हैं. और दूसरी बात, मेरा ये बेसिक ऑब्जेक्शन है, आपत्ति है कि इस प्रकार के दंगों की बात पढ़ाकर क्या बच्चों को हम सिखाना चाहते हैं.
अच्छा, अब आप एक अलग
दंगे तो इसके पहले भी बहुत हुए, इसके बाद भी बहुत हुए हैं.
अच्छा, अब आप एक अलग पॉइंट कह रहे हैं,
इसके बाद भी बहुत दंगे हुए हैं.
So now you are saying that riots per se
मेरा कहना है कि
should not be taught. Okay, can I just bring in Professor Aditya Mukherjee?
मेरा तो यही आपत्ति है कि भाई.
अच्छा, can I just bring in Professor Aditya Mukherjee? Professor Aditya Mukherjee, what do you make of this? Do you think these are legitimate deletions and critiques that are being offered of these textbooks, or is this simply leading to a continuing erosion of the quality of education, also politicizing education, but leading also to a to an erosion of quality?
Not only quality, it's destroying Indian education. The basic issue is that education should be left to academia, to academics, to scholars, and it is not private organizations, particularly ones which are narrow-minded, who should decide what should be in a textbook. And this is what has been happening. This is I mean, since we are referring to the RSS and Dinanath Batra, this has been their strategy from the very beginning, to ideologically transform the thinking of school children. And whenever they have come close to power, for example in 77, they started attacking textbooks which were written by at that time, the best internationally known scholars of the country. People like Ramila Thapar, Satish Chandra, Bipin Chandra, they attacked those books from 77 onwards.
So you would rebut their allegation that those books themselves had a political ideology behind them?
Not at all. As I said, there were scholarly works written by scholars, by historians, by political scientists. They were scholarly works. What they have brought in is propaganda. They have brought in mythology. They have brought in all kinds of imaginary facts which are not verified.
Okay. I just want to ask you, Rakesh Sinha, that it's not just in this particular instance.
मेरी बात सुन लीजिए.
अच्छा,
मेरी बात सुन लीजिए आप.
हाँ जी,
आप मेरी बात सुन लीजिए.
जी जी.
हाँ, ये जिसको स्कॉलर कहते हैं ना
जी,
हमारे बारे में कहा जाता है कि हम आइडियोलॉजी के लिए सारा कर रहे हैं, ठीक है
जी.
लेकिन यूपीए के 10 साल में
जी,
हमने जब इसे गलत पाठ्यक्रमों पर आंदोलन चलाया तो सरकार नहीं मानी. उस समय हम कोर्ट में गए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट से लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट इसके खिलाफ है.
किसके?
ये अतुल कोठारी के जजमेंट नहीं है, ये बीजेपी के आरएसएस के जजमेंट नहीं है.
ओके.
ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट, डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट के जजमेंट है, जिसके कारण सारे पाठ उनको इसमें से डिलीट करने पड़े.
अच्छा, मैं
ये मुखर्जी साहब को जानकारी में होना चाहिए.
अच्छा, ठीक है. Can I just bring in Rakesh Sinha here? As I was saying, Rakesh Sinha, it's not just in this particular instance, but it looks like this entire business of rewriting history is now popping up once again in a number of BJP ruled states, and it's again not so much about the fact that there's an attempt to revise textbooks, that's an ongoing process, but about the quality of the revisions. For example, as you know, in Rajasthan, there were headlines last year when the new social science textbook erased Nehru. It featured Gandhi, Bose, Savarkar, Bhagat Singh, Lala Lajpat Rai, but Nehru missing. The reference to Godse as the assassin of Mahatma Gandhi missing. This year, it appears that the textbook was, the attempt to rewrite the textbook to show that Maharana Pratap actually defeated Akbar in the famous Battle of Haldighati, despite the fact that enough historical evidence shows the reverse. So, Rakesh Sinha, in the name of politics, in the name of ideology, aren't you lowering the standard of historic education?
Srinivasan ji, is not a politics and ideology.
Okay.
It's basically a debate on the perspective on history. You may agree, you may disagree. And in democracy, there should be a space for both conservative,
no, but what's the logic?
But
what's the logic behind removing Nehru or claiming that Maharana Pratap defeated Akbar?
Let me complete, because this. No,
that's just,
I'm coming to. Sir.
Isn't that just
I'm coming
distortion
to that.
of basic facts?
Nehru is not missing. Nehru has been mentioned. Let me complete. Half knowledge is dangerous.
Okay.
Nehru is not missing. Nobody has read the textbook. Only newspaper reporting cannot be sufficient.
Okay.
Nehru has been mentioned 14 times in Rajasthan textbook. Others who were mentioned missing, they were mentioned. I'm giving
and
the
Maharana
examples.
Pratap,
There are many historical figures
Maharana
who were missing.
Pratap and Haldighati?
Marginalized. They were. I'm coming to Aditya Mukherjee raised a very pertinent
question.
I
just want you to specifically respond to the fact that the Rajasthan history textbooks are attempting to suggest that Maharana Pratap won the battle of Haldighati.
I can't play.
Is that justified in your view?
I have given the answer that Nehru is not miss. That part I don't know. So I can't claim that. Okay. I can't come to defend or reject it. Let me complete that. They continue to write that Bhagat Singh was a terrorist. They continue to write till NDA won that Guru Tegh Bahadur was a rapine, Miss Lutera. And NDA has changed. That time too. They raised this.
Who writes that Bhagat Singh is a terrorist? Who's in which textbook is that mentioned?
In Delhi University's book, Bhagat Singh, it remained as Bhagat Singh terrorist. It was removed last year by in Delhi University, and Guru Tegh Bahadur was refined by one of their own scholars. So whatever the Sahmat scholars who join Sahmat, who participate in Sahmat Marxist, they are the academicians. Anyone who is non-leftist, they are not academicians.
And clarifying, and the very first time the word is used, saying that there is no pejorative meaning behind it, and over time he stopped using that word. But at that time, like Tilak was called an extremist. At that time, that is how history is written. Now you cannot use current words and put words into the mouths of historians. Okay. Historians must use the phrase that were used at that time.
Akshay Mukul, what do you make of this? Because as somebody who's both reported on education and has done an extremely research scholarly work on the Gita Press and the the deployment of its publications to craft, as it were, a narrative of Hindutva mobilization, a kind of part of the Hindutva political project. Do you see a sort of a connective strand between what has been happening in the past and as well as now what we're seeing with these latest recommendations?
Basu, 2-3 quick points. Actually, this new list which Mr. Batra has given to the ministry is an updated list. In 2014, when the new government came to power, he had given a whole list, the similar list of words of English and Urdu which needs to be removed. Right. And it even had something like scandal point in Simla. They said that the scandal point should be removed. And it's a continuous thing which Mr. Batra has been doing. For the last 3.5 years, much to my surprise, the section of the bureaucracy in the ministry and few others have not listened to him the way he wants to be taken seriously.
Right.
Another thing which I'll respond to what Mr. Kothari was saying about removing Urdu words in Hindi. Then what happens to Prem Chand? Should we stop reading Prem Chand stories, which is kind of peppered with Hindustani all these words. So what happens to that?
Can I just get
we don't know where will it end, how will it end.
Can I just get him to respond to that one point on Premchand? कोठारी जी, प्रेमचंद का फिर क्या करे? अक्षय मुकुल पूछ रहे हैं कि अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि उर्दू वर्ड्स को हटा दें तो प्रेमचंद कैसे पढ़े? कोठारी जी, आवाज आ रही है हमारी? अच्छा, we seem to be having some audio issues with Mr. Kothari. We'll try and restore the audio just at that point. But Rakesh Sinha, do you want to respond on the point of Premchand?
No, there is a difference. No, Akshay Mukul is raising a out of context. There is no harm teaching any work which is full of Urdu words. Here, Mr. Kothari has raised a very pertinent issue that you are teaching.
Just now, Mr. Kothari said
English
this.
And Urdu words. That is his point. That is his point. That is his point. He is not opposed to Premchand or any other author who has used the Urdu words. He's saying that you can't. If you are making children to learn Hindi, and it is replete of Urdu and English words, the purity of language.
Mr. Sinha is just twisting what even Mr. Kothari said.
You can differ it. You can't reject it. You have right to differ it.
But Mr. Sinha, Rakesh ji, we just heard him say that. We just heard him say that when you are talking about Hindi, you can't have Urdu words. Premchand is considered one of the greatest writers of Hindi. According to Mr. Kothari's definition, you will not be able to teach Premchand.
Here I would say that.
Do you agree? Maybe you don't agree with Mr. Kothari. If you don't, you're free to say that.
Hindi is a language which has capacity. I agree that Hindi is a language which has capacity to digest words from other languages. This is the beauty of Hindi. But that doesn't mean that you are imposing other words. It's a natural way of digestion, and other way you are imposing just to make sometimes you are in India the people link Urdu with a Muslim, and that's why they profess. It is not I love Urdu because Urdu is a language, but certain people
who is responsible for that? Who is responsible for that?
They connect Urdu with a Muslim identity.
Akshay Mukul wants to respond.
Who started it? I would like to ask Mr. Sinha.
Professor Sinha, just a second. Let Akshay Mukul respond. Go ahead, Akshay.
I have a small question to Mr. Sinha. Who started this Hindi-Urdu debate? It was led by the leading light of Congress then, but very close to this whole Sangh Parivar, Mr. Madan Mohan Malviya, which is called the famous Mayo-MacDonald movement of 1900. So can you explain who started this Hindi for Hindus and Urdu for Muslim movement?
You are wrong. You are wrong.
These are the people who were behind it. Yes, I'm absolutely right. I'm absolutely right. And you really need to read it up on this.
Okay, can I just
Yes.
Can I just go back to Kothari ji?
You consider. Let me reply. Let me reply to Akshay Mukul. Give me 10 seconds. When Farsi was replaced by English in the court, then the new movement started for the Urdu.
अच्छा, मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कोठारी जी कि जहाँ तक आपने कहा कि ये जो हिस्टोरियंस हैं जिनका नाम जिक्र किया प्रोफेसर आदित्य मुखर्जी ने, आपने कहा कि वो स्कॉलर्स नहीं हैं, तो जैसे अगर दीनानाथ बत्रा जी को देखा जाए,
स्कॉलर होंगे,
एक सेकंड, मुझे सवाल पूछने दीजिए। जहां तक दीनानाथ बत्रा जी का सवाल है, उनकी किताबें गुजरात सरकार बांट रही है, हरियाणा सरकार बांट रही है, क्या आप उनको स्कॉलर मानेंगे? बिकॉज अगर उनके बुक्स के एग्जाम्पल्स देखे जाएं, उन्होंने कहा है कि भारत का जो नक्शा है उसमें पाकिस्तान भी होना चाहिए, अफगानिस्तान भी होना चाहिए, नेपाल, भूटान, तिब्बत, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, बर्मा, ये सारे देश अखंड भारत के हिस्सा हैं।
ये कौन सी पुस्तक का नाम बताइए आप मुझे अक्षय जी पुस्तक का नाम बताइए।
डिवीजन ऑफ इंडिया कह रहे हैं अननेचुरल है, यूनाइटेड अगेन। ये पुस्तक है तेजोमय भारत बाय दीनानाथ बत्रा, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड इन गुजरात।
ये पहले मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ, एक मिनट अक्षय जी आप इसको स्टॉप करिए। ये तेजोमय भारत दीनानाथ बत्रा जी की पुस्तक बिल्कुल नहीं है। आप पहले संपूर्ण जानकारी लेकर फिर चर्चा करिए।
अच्छा,
मैंने इसी पुस्तक के लिए जो लिखा था तो टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया को मैंने लीगल नोटिस दिया था।
अच्छा,
ये पुस्तक बत्रा जी की है नहीं।
अच्छा,
और
है ही
गलत
नहीं।
ढंग से बत्रा जी को इस पुस्तक के नाम से प्रस्तुत किया जाता
अच्छा,
है।
एक और
हाँ, नहीं,
किताब
बिल्कुल
है
बत्रा जी की नहीं है।
शिखन नो भारतीयकरण, ये है किताब उनकी?
नहीं, ये भी नहीं है बत्रा जी की।
अच्छा, ये भी
नहीं,
बत्रा
पहले
जी
withdraw
की
तो
किताब
ऐसा
है।
है,
श्रीनिवासन जी, आपने इतना
अक्षय जी,
गलत स्टेट-
अक्षय जी,
नहीं, नहीं,
अक्षय
जो
जी।
नहीं, कोठारी जी ने जो
आप
इशू
मेरी
था
बात
उसको स्वीकार
सुनिए,
कीजिए
अक्षय जी।
पहले।
अच्छा, ठीक है।
मेरी बात सुनिए राकेश जी, मेरी बात सुनिए। विषय को डाइल्यूट करने का जो प्रयास किया जा रहा
जी।
है, मैं मुखर्जी साहब को कहना चाहता हूं, मेरे सामने प्रमाण के साथ बातें हैं कि यूपीए सरकार में 9-10 कोर्ट के डिसीजन हमारी फेवर में आए। रोमिला थापर, बिपिन चंद्रा, सतीश चंद्रा, इन सबके पाठ निकाल दिए गए।
ओके,
ये सब स्कॉलर थे। हमने
अच्छा,
नहीं
चलिए,
निकाले
we are
हैं।
out of time.
ये उन्होंने निकाले हैं। दूसरी एक बात कहना चाहता हूं
वे
कि आप
completely
अभी
out of
कह रहे
time.
थे कि
Those
भाषा
books
के
can
नाम
be
पर, हाँ, भाषा के नाम पर संप्रदाय में जो बांटने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं इस चैनल पर, ये बिल्कुल गलत है।
अच्छा।
हम कभी नहीं हमने कहा कि मुसलमानों की भाषा उर्दू है, हिंदुओं की भाषा हिंदू है। हमने ये भाषा की जो कानून है, नियम कानून है, उसकी बात उठाई है।
अच्छा, चलिए,
हमारा
बिल्कुल
उर्दू का
वक्त
विरोध नहीं
खत्म
है,
हो
हमारा
गया
फारसी
शुक्ला
का
जी।
विरोध नहीं है, हमारा किसी भी बात का विरोध नहीं है।
ठीक है, ठीक है, we're completely out of time.
मेरा
I know
कहना है
everybody
कि
wants to
आप
make points, but I'll have to
हमारी
leave
जो
it there.
मूल बात है इससे
Thank you very much
मेरी
indeed.
एक
Thank you.
लास्ट बात सुन लीजिए।
Thank you
एक
very
लास्ट
much
बात
indeed.
सुन लीजिए कि जो
Atul Kothari ji, Apurvanand, Professor Rakesh Sinha, Aditya Mukherjee, Akshay Mukul, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you for watching Reality Check. Good night.